And now, our conference moderators. First, we have Dr. Alfonso C. Danac, Chief of Medical and Professional Staff of Jose Bilingad Memorial Regional Hospital in San Fernando City, the Philippines. And Dr. Narendra Chudhari, Associate Professor of Division of Trauma and JPN APEC Trauma Center, All India Institute of Medical Sciences in New Delhi, India. Ladies and gentlemen, our conference moderators, Dr. Alfonso C. Danac and Dr. Narendra Chudhari.
A pleasant day to everyone. Good evening, and I welcome you all on behalf of Asian Collaboration of Trauma for the 10th anniversary webinar that is themed on the journey from mind to heart, a decade of collaboration. I am Dr. Narendra Chaudhary, your moderator for today's webinar. I will be moderating this session along with Dr. Danac Alfonso. He will be the co-host for moderating today's session. So, Dr. Alfonso Danac.
Thank you, Dr. Narendra. And indeed, today marks another milestone in the history of the Asian Collaboration for Trauma as we commemorate 10 years of academic exchange and friendship. We also would like to welcome our participants who have joined us in this webinar all over the world. And to formally welcome us, we would like to call the Chair of the Asian Collaboration for Trauma, Dr. Rolando de la Cruz.
Thank you, Dr. Fons, for that kind introduction. Distinguished faculty, panel of reactors, panelists, fellow, friends and colleagues. A very good evening, good afternoon, and good morning to all of you logging in from every corner of the globe. Today marks exactly 10 years after the Asian Collaboration for Trauma was formed in Bacolod City on May 12, 2012, with the aim to enhance trauma and injury care through education, training, and research. The ACT is a journey which will take you from your mind thinking what's best for the community and sharing this unconditionally to the people with all our hearts. Today, we are joined by three of the four founders of ACT, Dr. Ted Herbosa, Dr. Chuming Turk, and Dr. Ismael Saibun. Let us pause for a moment to remember one of the founders of ACT, Dr. Vijayan Apasami, and to all the fellows which has passed on, particularly Dr. Ahmad Hidayat from Indonesia. We are also honored to have with us eminent speakers from the different continents which have formed collaboration with Asia. Thank you to you all, and to all the moderators and organizers. We are very grateful. We look forward to celebrating the next conferences in a more festive way. Thank you, and over to you, Dr. Fons.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Ronaldo, for your enlightening speech. At this juncture, we are privileged to be joined by the founding chair of the Asian Collaboration for Trauma. It's no one else but Dr. Teodoro Herbosa, who will give his cordial message. Sir, Dr. Teodoro.
Thank you very much, Dr. Narendra Chaudhary, and to everyone. Roland, thank you very much for that kind introduction. And to all the speakers, all the other reactors, and everyone who's here tonight. It's been 10 years since an idea came about, an idea from three friends. I mean, four actually. I don't know how many now, but three friends from neighboring countries in the ASEAN region, in the Southeast Asian region. And that corner, a group of islands like the Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, and of course, Thailand. And we were all in one island in the central part of the Philippines, in the Visayas, for a mid-year meeting of surgeons of our country. And we decided that we should be able to collaborate with each other. It was initially just a very loose idea of just collaborating because of the fact that all of us had goals to improve trauma care in our different countries. Because of a common goal and a common friendship, we were able to actually have a second meeting. A second meeting was hosted, a third, and eventually it started to grow. But surprisingly, the meetings had stopped because of a pandemic that gripped the world. But as we all know, in crisis there is always opportunity, and suddenly they started to do these webinars. And although we do not shake hands physically, our minds connect virtually through this platform. And in fact, in the past 2 years that we've been doing this webinar, I have seen the community grow. I mean, in terms of knowledge, in terms of network, and in terms of people. And I have so much confidence that what we had started back then in Bacolod will truly be a great thing. And with all the introduction about Asia being the most diverse continent, the largest landmass, 30% of Earth's landmass, and a large proportion of the population, I do understand that trauma, injury care will be a very important part to all our countries in trying to save lives in our specific systems. So with this, I'd like to thank everyone who has helped us get to this. I am looking forward to a greater decade that will come next. And with all the younger surgeons being inspired by what many of those that have gone on, and to all of you younger trauma surgeons, I do hope that eventually the baton will be passed and the next decade of trauma surgeons will continue this wonderful collaboration of the Asian continent. With that, mabuhay. Thank you very much, and good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone here.
Thank you, Dr. Herbosa, and for that wonderful message. Equally important as another pillar of the Asian collaboration for trauma is the founding co-chair. And to deliver his cordial message, please welcome Dr. Ismail Maud Saibun. Dr. Saibun.
Hi, hello. Thank you very much, Dr. Alfonso, for the kind introduction. Hi, my name is Ismail. I'm from Malaysia. And I think I would like to take this opportunity on the 10th anniversary of the ACT just to introduce, to share with you how actually this thing started. Well, if I can share my slide. I prepared a few slides, and so that you all can enjoy the photos. Now, it all started even before that. If you all remember, Singapore have this thing called Singapore Trauma. It was actually a yearly event. And when I first started joined them back in 2006 as an ATLS instructor, at that time, Mr. Chu has already basically mooted the idea of working together. And then after that, myself and also I take some of my team, we go down to Singapore, and sometimes the Singapore team comes to Malaysia. And then in 2008, we had the first Malaysia-Singapore trauma. So from Singapore trauma, we expanded to involving Malaysia. That's the second country, the Malaysian-Singapore trauma. And in 2009, my good friend, Professor Teodoro Herbosa, joined me in UKM. And but in 2009, the conference goes back to Singapore to have a Singapore trauma. But in 2010, it come back, and this is the time where myself, Ted, and Chu Wing Tek, and also the late Vijayan, we come together to have the second Malaysia-Singapore trauma in 2010. Sorry, Chu, for the poor quality of the photo. It was an old photo that I able to dig up. Well, we don't only work with that. This collaboration between we in Malaysia and Singapore able to set up the ATLS training back in Malaysia. And I think Ted also remember those things because he was actually in UKM in Malaysia at that time. And then yes, we have this is when they have the faculty that come all the way from the States and also from Australia to start trauma training in Malaysia. And then in 2012. Professor Ted Herbosa said that why don't we bring this thing, get another country into it, and that's when we have this. Initially, we want to call it Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines trauma, but then Chiu was very instrumental together with Vijayan, basically wanting to have a loose collaboration between these countries, and this is where we went to Bacolod in 2012 and have this meeting. There was a lot of people there, and actually it was held in together with this Philippine College of Surgeons meeting, where we had the ASEAN trauma conference and ASEAN surgical summits. That was the photo that, if you remember that thing, and this was the team that was there. If you all can see, you can still see Dato' Razman, who's there. He followed me to the Philippines. Narain, he was there also. Mingtek, myself, Isang, the late Vijayan, and this is Dr. Concepcion, I think, if I'm not mistaken. All right. So these are basically the initial team that basically we agreed to form the ACT, and that was the big. He was a very powerful guy in Philippines, able to push things through and get this thing up. And this is when Chiu was called and basically have this the ACT launched for the first time in Bacolod. That was the team. We had a great fun. We have a great team, and basically the idea was basically initially was only to involve the ASEAN countries. So that's why I call ASEAN collaboration for trauma. But later it grew to become involve the Asian continent. And well, we had fun that night. I think that was it. So I think it was a good collaboration, and yes, well done everybody. We have already reached our 10th year of anniversary, and I think many more years to come, and a good collaboration, because the idea was just to share our knowledge and of practice in trauma to improve the trauma care in this part of the region. And I think with that, thank you very much. And I would like to pass back to the co-chair. Over to you, Dr. Alfonso and Dr. Chaudhry.
Dr. CMT, it's your turn.
So as been emphasized many times, this Asian collaboration of trauma's 10th anniversary. Remember, ACT started as a ASEAN collaboration, but expanded into an Asian collaboration. Both ASEAN and Asia starting with an A. ACT has been collaborating with the world since its inception, and this webinar is a celebration of this worldwide collaboration. From mind to heart, Australasia, Asia, Africa, Europe, North America, and South America, from all four corners of the world, forming a global community. And that is the dream of many societies. And that is the dream of ACT, trauma and critical care. We have speakers from all 5 continents talking about collaboration with Asia, and Asian experts commenting on these collaborations. Ian Civil from New Zealand talks about links between Singapore, New Zealand, and Malaysia. Pedro Ramos from Portugal talks about disaster training, preparedness, and how the oceans is no barrier to transference of training and knowledge. Almin Stein talks about how Asia collaborates with Africa in spite of the deficiencies in resources. Tariq Razak talks about the two-way exchange between countries and cultures. Tertial Campos talks about the trauma situation in Brazil. So we hope that this webinar will foster greater collaboration. We learn from each other. The next webinar in June will feature an all-female cast, speakers, reactors, down to